Good evening and welcome to DS Radio, Domination and Submission Radio. My name is Mike Makai and I am your host with the most BDSM, kink, and fetish talk on Blog Talk Radio. I've got, I hope, an interesting show for you this evening, but we're going to be all over the place. I've been traveling for about 3 or 4 weeks now, and it's really good to be home. You have no idea how good it is to be home.
Yeah!
That's pretty much how it feels. I have been to a couple major fetish events, and I have a lot to report about those, and I hope that sometime you will consider attending an event like these. I went to FetishCon in Central Florida, and I went to BDSM WritersCon in New York City just last week. And I'll tell you a little bit more about those in just a moment. But let me first tell you how you can be a part of this show. It is a call-in show, so we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. If you want to call in, get my opinion on something, ask a question, or maybe just rant a little bit yourself, the number to call in to is 347-857-1862. Again, 347-857-1862. Write that number down. You're going to call me sooner or later. After all, not everyone agrees with me. So feel free to disagree with me. Feel free to tell me what you think about anything we have to say tonight. Like I said, we're going to be all over the place. This is going to be kind of a catch-up show, a roundup to kind of pick up where we left off about 3 or 4 weeks ago when I went off on my travels to these major fetish events. If you don't know how I travel like a hobo. I mean, it's really expensive going to these fetish conventions all over the country, and so I'm kind of like a hobo. It's pretty sad, actually. A starving writer, traveling on a shoestring. So if you ever see me, like hitchhiking on the side of the road, buy me a sandwich. I could probably use one. So anyway, let's see. I told you how you can call in. You can also talk to us in the chat room. If you scroll to the bottom of the website, if you're listening to us live at Blog Talk Radio, just check the chat room at the bottom of the page there. You do have to have a free account at Blog Talk Radio and be logged in to be able to say anything in the chat room. But it's free and it's easy to sign up. Just don't let them sell you your own radio show. That's basically what they'll try to do. Okay, you can also check us out at our website. The website is domination-submission.com, domination-submission.com. There you can find out a little bit more information about me and my books, and you can do some fun stuff like take a BDSM quiz or a primal quiz or even a polyamory quiz there. So if nothing else, you can contact me by clicking on the contact button at the top of the page there and send me an email to tell me that I just won the lottery and can collect my winnings or something. I need some good news here. I really do. Not that there hasn't been a lot of it, so let me tell you what some of the things that have been going on. If you haven't heard already, we just released the BDSM Coloring Book a few weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, I guess, and it has been getting rave reviews, absolutely rave reviews. It was a big hit at FetishCon in Tampa, Florida at the beginning of the month. And seriously, I had to wrestle it away from people once I showed it to them. They didn't want to give it up. So it is doing very well in the rankings. It is actually outselling Domination and Submission. By the way, if you don't know this already, I am the author of Domination and Submission, the BDSM Relationship Handbook, which is in the top 100 BDSM books of all time. It's outselling the Kama Sutra and the Joy of Sex. And it's coming up fast on Screw the Roses, which is the book that I set out to beat in the rankings. So it's doing very well, and yet the coloring book is doing even better. There was a chance for you to win a free coloring book over the last couple of weeks. We had a free giveaway at Goodreads.com. Goodreads.com was giving away 10 of the BDSM coloring books, and that contest just ended a few days ago, and if you were one of the 10 winners, I've probably already sent you an email asking you where you want it sent to and how you want it signed. There's also a free coloring book giveaway at thesubmissiveguide.com. I think it's submissiveguide.com. A very nice lady runs that website named Luna, and she gave away a copy of Domination and Submission, the BDSM Relationship Handbook, the big book. So the winner of that book, strangely enough, was someone I ran into at a pub just a couple of weeks ago. So it's a very, very small world. Apparently several hundred people, at least a few hundred people, signed up for that contest to win the book, and the winner turned out to be a woman that I had just met a few weeks ago in the back porch pub over a sandwich with a larger group of people. But just strange. Small world. All right, so let me tell you what else we're going to be talking about this evening. And really, this is a call-in show, so if you have anything you want to talk about, by all means, give me a call. It's been a long time since we've done the show live, and I'm just kind of tying up loose ends, telling you what's been going on. I want to just ramble a little bit. I don't really have an agenda for you this evening about anything I want to talk about. I'll probably tell you a little bit about the presentations that I gave at the last two fetish conventions I've been to, and my ideas for some new presentations that I will be giving in the coming months. So I think you'll find some of that interesting. I'll also be giving you a little bit of an update on my progress on my upcoming book, which is entitled The Warrior Princess Submissive. The Warrior Princess Submissive. And let me tell you real quick what that's about in case you haven't heard yet. It is a book about a submissive for the 21st century. Exactly, a submissive for the 21st century. Do you ever get the feeling, when you read about all of the classic categories of submissives out there, you hear about them all the time. You get the service submissive, you've got the acolyte, you've got the newbie, you've got the, you got a switchy sub, you have a brat sub. I mean, they're just... In my book, Domination Submission, I outlined about 9 categories of submissives and 1 category of phony submissive, which I called the pseudo-sub. But I did not talk about the submissive that is the subject of my next book, which is the Warrior Princess Submissive. So when we talk about these classic categories of submissive, a lot of people have gotten the feeling that there must be one missing. Now, maybe you know the one we're talking about. That missing submissive is the one that's wicked smart, extremely strong-willed, just super, uber competent, ultra competitive, just synergistic, switchy, and just a crusader, a fighter, always out there fighting the good fight. You know who I'm talking about. You know somebody like this. She's definitely nobody's doormat, and she's never a victim. I like to call her a kick-ass submissive for the 21st century. Think for a moment about Xena, the warrior princess, kneeling at the feet of Hercules. You probably don't know this, but Xena, before she got her own television show, was a character in the a short-lived television program called Hercules. I can't remember what it is. Something Journeys. Anyway, she was in Hercules, the something Journeys. Anyway, so she was supposed to appear on just 3 episodes and then get killed off. By the way, she was a villain, a bad girl. By the way, she became so popular, in fact, more popular than Hercules at the time, that she basically got her own television show, a spin-off show, and Hercules got canceled. Go figure. So Xena, who started out as a villain on television, becomes a heroine, however you say it, and she, instead of becoming Hercules' girlfriend, ends up with a sidekick named Gabrielle, little wannabe Amazon, blonde, an apprentice Amazon, so to speak. And this relationship, this pairing of Xena and Gabrielle tended to spur a lot of speculation about Xena's sexual orientation for many years. But that's neither here nor there. what I want to address here is the fact that Xena was originally designed to be a foil for Hercules, a romantic interest, even though she was a bad girl. And like Xena, the warrior princess that I'm talking about in my upcoming book, definitely is not a woman who simply waits helplessly for her white knight or Hercules to arrive and slay these dragons for her. This is a woman who can kick the dragon's ass herself and smiles over while she's doing it at the white knight or at Hercules standing on the sidelines and says, hey, buddy, feel free to jump right in and lend your sword to this fight. Otherwise, you need to just stay the hell out of my way. This is a woman who doesn't let anybody push her around. She doesn't want a rescuer. What she really wants is an ally that she can rely on in the chaos of battle. And she's always in battle. She's always out there crusading for something. You know who I'm talking about. You know somebody like this. You might even be that person yourself. She's basically looking for somebody, a partner, a warrior, equal to the tasks that she has already chosen for herself. And she's demonstrably capable of accomplishing those tasks with or without her partner's help. All right, so this is who I'm talking about when we're talking about the Warrior Princess Submissive. At the end of the day, after she's done fighting the good fight, after she's kicked ass and taken names, she's perfectly at ease, considering herself entirely the property of her master. Heart, might, mind, body, and soul. Now, there's more to this story than just the fact that this is a submissive for the 21st century and that there are a lot of people who identify with her. In fact, when I put the first book out, Domination Submission, the BDSM Relationship Handbook, I got a ton of letters, a lot of emails from people saying, hey, what's the deal? I can't find myself anywhere on your list of submissive types. I don't fit any of those categories. And that's perfectly understandable. One, because nobody perfectly fits any category. These are all archetypes. They're prototypes. They're, a perfect example of someone who fits that mold. It's kind of like a dominant. There's no such thing as the perfect dominant. There's no such thing as the perfect submissive, and you can't really fit any category perfectly. You're going to line up with some, maybe most of the characteristics of certain categories, but there's no crime in not being easily cubbyholed into a specific type of a submissive or dominant. And for that matter, that's why I created a whole new category of dominant, basically for myself, because I, probably like you, didn't fit any particular category very well. So, being the cocky, full of myself person that I am, I basically created a whole new category just for myself. But I digress. Why is the Warrior Princess Submissive important, other than for reasons of there are a lot of people who identify with her? And there are. Let's face it, there are very few women out there in this day and age who fit the mold or fit the prototype of the submissive housewife of the 1950s. She's just not out there anymore. The women out there now are smart, capable, competitive. They are not anyone's doormat. And so when they read these descriptions of these submissive categories, they have a hard time identifying with them. And that's great. I think that a lot of people, when this book comes out, will be able to identify with the Warrior Princess Submissive. But there's another reason why she is important. Another reason why you should be paying attention. Another reason why, hopefully, when this book comes out, the people who read it will be changed by it. Because once a mind is expanded beyond its original dimensions, it never goes back to its original size, original thought processes. And so I'm hoping that this book changes some people's attitudes and starts a process where we change some societal attitudes. Because guess what? There's going to be a day coming very soon in the not-too-distant future when we, all of us, are going to be embroiled in a highly politicized war on the BDSM lifestyle. And by that I mean it's going to be a propaganda war that characterizes all dominants as abusers and all submissives as victims of abusive and or exploitative relationships. Now, why do I say that? Well, let's start with the fact that 50 Shades of Grey has become the biggest selling paperback book of all time, outselling Harry Potter and the Bible. Think about that for a minute. 50 Shades of Grey, a book that glorifies non-consensual BDSM activities, that re-victimizes people who are actual real victims of abuse by trivializing the assaults that they have endured in the past. This book is the biggest selling book of all time. And guess what? In February, we're going to be graced with the movie 50 Shades of Grey, further glorifying this fantasy view of our lifestyle written by someone who has never experienced it herself. It's a pretty sad thing. You may not know this, but 50 Shades of Grey was written as Twilight fan fiction. It was originally written as vampire fiction, and somehow the BDSM aspects of the writing completely overshadowed that and turned it into something completely different. And, due credit to the writer, it has struck a chord with a lot of people out there. Unfortunately, the people who are fascinated with this work of fiction are getting a completely skewed and fallacious view of the BDSM lifestyle, and particularly of loving and healthy DS relationships. Let's face it, if you watch the movie, if you read the book, 50 Shades of Grey, you're going to come away with the notion that BDSM is not healthy. It's not good for people. It's abusive. It promotes a rape culture. It promotes non-consensual sex. It's not good, people. It's just not good. Now, it may be hot. It might be erotic. It might be a turn-on for a lot of people, but guess what? It's going to be bad for the lifestyle. It's going to be bad for you and me, because guess what? It won't take very long before the voices are raised condemning what we do as being bad, as being exploitative. And if you think it can't happen, guess again. I can remember when you could still light up a cigarette in a restaurant. I can remember when you could do lots of things that are considered bad now, considered very antisocial. So it can happen in the blink of an eye. And so, 50 years ago, there were spittoons everywhere, and spitting became socially unacceptable. 20 years ago, smoking in public became socially unacceptable. Well, guess what? Pretty soon, and guess what? Our lifestyle is already pretty much socially unacceptable. But when the militant feminists get out there and start equating our lifestyle with misogyny, the hatred of women, and the abuse and exploitation of women, it won't take long before everyone jumps on that bandwagon. So this is going to be a propaganda war that characterizes all dominants as abusers, all submissives as victims of abuse. And when the Warrior Princess Submissive comes out of the shadows, because she's kind of a stealth submissive, guess what? Everyone thinks she's a dominant. Everyone thinks she's in charge all the time. in every aspect of her life. They don't see what happens at home behind closed doors. They don't see her. They don't see Xena going home and kneeling at the feet of Hercules. They only see Xena out there wiping the floor with the bodies of her enemies. All right. So when she comes out of the shadows and chooses to fight for this lifestyle instead of against it, and this is what many of her contemporaries are going to expect her to do. They're going to expect her to fight against the lifestyle because, guess what? She is a crusader. She's been out there crusading at the forefront of the feminist movement. She's a feminist. Okay? She's a feminist. And when some of her contemporary feminists condemn this lifestyle, she's going to have to get out in front and fight for it. And this will be a good thing because she's going to have to be able to say, you know what? You respected me 5 minutes ago when you thought I was a dominant, but now that you know that I'm a submissive, what do you think now? That's what it's going to take to fight this fight. Because guess what? A dominant getting up there and telling you that it isn't abuse is not going to cut it. It's going to take a strong-willed, ultra-competitive, ultra-competent, crusading feminist who just happens to be a submissive to convince society that condemnation of this lifestyle is not right. It's going to be that strong moral compass that she has that's going to reassure the people on the sidelines that what she is doing is right and that her fight is just. And that's why the Warrior Princess Submissive is important, because I'm calling her the hope and salvation of the BDSM lifestyle. I really am, and I truly believe this. And if you don't believe it, you just wait until February 14th, 2015, when 50 Shades of Grey, the movie, comes out. And just pay attention to the voices being raised telling us that we are all abusers or victims and that BDSM is evil. Well, it's not. I mean, we need to get out there in front of this and portray this lifestyle as what it is. It's a lifestyle like any other lifestyle. There's going to be good people and bad people in it. You can't tell me that the vanilla lifestyle doesn't have any bad people in it. You can't tell me the gay lifestyle doesn't have bad people. You know, every lifestyle has its bad apples. But this lifestyle, like any other lifestyle, can be lived in a healthy way. And we start by having healthy relationships and healthy, smart attitudes about what it is we do. So this is something that I feel very strongly about, can you tell? And I hope that you'll feel strongly about it, too, as we move forward, because, like I said, we are going to be in the fight of our lives in a few months, just a few months away. February is what? It's August, September, October, November, December, January. 6 months away. 6 months away. We've got a lot of work to do in 6 months. And one of the things we've got to do is we've got to let those Warrior Princess Submissives out there know exactly who they are and what they are. Because guess what? Some of them are a little confused themselves. Not only is everyone around them a little bit confused because all they ever see is that dominant side of their personality. They don't see the gift of submission that they bestow upon their partners. But sometimes the Warrior Princess Submissive is confused too. Why is that? Well, because there are people even in the lifestyle who have a lot of misconceptions about the lifestyle. One of those misconceptions is that if you can't figure out whether you're dominant or submissive, that means you must be a switch. That's become kind of the default position for a lot of people. It's like, I don't know if I'm dominant, I don't know if I'm submissive, so I guess that makes me a switch. Wrong answer. All right? Wrong answer. Switch is not a default categorization for people who are confused about their dominance orientation. Okay, it just isn't. It's a sad thing that people even in the lifestyle. Sometimes people who are very experienced in the lifestyle have come to believe that. It's just not true. For those of you who may be new to the terminology or new to the lifestyle, a switch is defined as somebody who can change their dominance or submissive orientation at will. So you can decide to be a dominant today, and you can decide to be a submissive tomorrow. That's pretty much a switch. Not very many people can do that in their relationship dynamics because, guess what? Those tend not to be very changeable. They tend not to be easily altered, your relationship dynamics. However, it's easier to do in your BDSM activities. And, of course, I have, in my book and always, defined DS as a relationship dynamic. Domination Submission is a relationship dynamic. It's who you are. It's how you find your happy place. It's how you express your love for your partner. Who you are. BDSM is something you do. It's an activity. Bondage, discipline, sadism, masochism, those are things that you do. And you don't have to be involved with somebody to do those things. I could just, I could take a stranger and put her over my knee and spank her. That's a BDSM activity. It falls under discipline, by the way, spanking. And it's something I do. I don't have to be in a relationship with that person to put her over my knee and spank her. So BDSM is an activity. DS is a relationship dynamic. Now, if you haven't been able to sort that out in your head, it's no wonder you might be confused about your orientation, because just because you spanked someone today and then you were spanked by someone tomorrow, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a DS switch, because you're not switching your relationship dynamic. You're switching your activities. You are being a top one day and a bottom the next day. So get used to using the proper terminology. And, of course, there are people out there who disagree with me. I'll be the first one to admit that. There are people who want to be all-inclusive and everybody's part of everything and nobody's wrong, and, you don't want to exclude anyone. Well, when you're so inclusive in your terminology that whatever you say can mean just about anything, it loses its impact. It loses its utility. I'll give you a good example. I'm poly. I'm polyamorous. Polyamory is a combination of Greek and Latin. Poly meaning many, and amory or amor meaning love. So it means many loves. Someone who is polyamorous can love more than one person. Okay. Now, I'm not here to argue the whether that's right or wrong, or whether it's good or bad for people to be polyamorous. Not at all. What I'm talking about here is verbiage, terminology. There are people who want to include all kinds of things in polyamory. So let's say you're a swinger. Well, there are people who want to include swinging under the umbrella of polyamory. Why? Because, I don't know, because it's not nice to exclude people, I guess. We just want to be inclusive. We want everyone under the big tent, I guess. And so what you end up with is swingers who do not have relationships, multiple relationships, loving relationships. They simply have multiple sex partners, trying, or not necessarily trying, but you have people trying to include that under polyamory, which specifically is about having multiple love relationships. So it begins to dilute the meaning of the word, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in itself until those words are being used to try and weed out people who are not potential partners for you, or help you to find people who may be potential partners for you. So now, while you're out there looking for other people who are polyamorous, you're looking for someone who is capable of having multiple loving relationships. Because the word has lost its meaning, now you've got to wade through 100,000 people who are not looking for multiple loving relationships. They're just looking for multiple sex partners. So that's just one example of how letting a word be watered down or lose its meaning can make it a whole lot harder for you to find happiness in this lifestyle. And so getting back to our original line of discussion here, when we let people assume or speak as if DS and BDSM are the same thing, we are not doing anybody any favors. When we confuse the meanings of top and bottom with dominant and submissive, we're not doing anybody any favors. We're causing a lot of confusion and probably quite a bit of heartache and disappointment for people who are trying to find happiness in this lifestyle, who are trying to find partners, preferably lifetime partners that they can enjoy this lifestyle with. So, I think that the first step to finding happiness in this or any lifestyle is knowing what you're looking for, and you do that by using the correct language and the right words for things. I mean, yeah, they're just labels, but labels save us a hell of a lot of work. When I tell you that I'm a dominant, you pretty much know what that means, and I don't have to spend the next hour explaining it to you. So labels have a purpose. They perform a very valuable function for us. They save us a heck of a lot of time in our search, because there's only so many hours in a day, and there's a hell of a lot of fish in the sea. So we're going to take a quick break here. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some upcoming fetish events and what went on at some of the ones I just came back from. You're listening to Domination and Submission Radio. My name is Mike Makai, the author of Domination Submission, the BDSM Relationship Handbook, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes. We are back. You're listening to DS Radio. My name is Mike Makai, your host with the most BDSM, kink, and fetish talk on Blog Talk Radio. All right, so I do want to take a moment to welcome 2 new vendors, book vendors out there of my books. They are Todd Couples Superstore in Tampa, Florida, and let's see, Christie's Toy Box in Middle America, and I think we picked up another one I don't have them on my list right now, so I'll have to tell you about them later. But anyway, if you know of a bookstore out there, an adult bookstore out there that doesn't have my book, put that bug in their ear, have them contact me. I'll even send them some free samples and stuff. So ask them why they're not carrying any books by Michael Makai. I need more minions out there doing that kind of stuff. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about what I've been up to this month. We canceled the last 2 shows because I've been out running around the country like some kind of a hobo, but it was for a good purpose. At the beginning of the month, last month, I was at FetishCon 2014 in Tampa, Florida, and I got to tell you, that was a hell of a good time. A heck of a good time. Whatever, either. If you don't go to any other fetish event all year, I would recommend that you go to FetishCon in Tampa, Florida next year. And if you want more information about it, definitely get in touch with me or go to their website, which is fetishcon.com. Let me tell you a little bit about it. You know, each one of these fetish events has a specific audience and a specific market that it appeals to. And FetishCon is no different. I went to DomCon Los Angeles, and their market was about 80% the professional dominatrix crowd. I went to South Plains Leatherfest in Dallas, and their market was pretty much the gay leather crowd, and to a certain extent the master-slave international master-slave competition enthusiasts. I also went to Bondage Expo Dallas, and their audience was primarily people who were into rope and restraints, and so there are a lot of classes on shibari and rope bondage and that sort of thing. So each one of these fetish events has a specific audience, a specific market. And FetishCon is no different, but this kind of took me by surprise. FetishCon is geared primarily towards photographers and models. Yeah, you got that right. Photographers and models, specifically fetish models, models who like to have their pictures taken while they're tied up or gagged or swinging from the ceiling or put over somebody's knee and getting spanked or whatever. So if you are an aspiring model, I would definitely recommend that you go to FetishCon next year. Even if you're not an aspiring model, I would go, and I would keep an open mind to becoming one, because guess what? These photographers and producers are always looking for people who have that girl next door look, the average person on the street look. And believe it or not, we're talking fetish here. There are quite a few producers and photographers looking for specialty models like grandmothers. Believe it or not, there's a lot of fetish photography out there involving older women, grandmothers, large women. There's a lot of fetish photography out there that involves big, beautiful women, BBWs as they're called in the trade. So don't count yourself out. There really is a market for everything. There really are people who have a fetish for darn near anything you can imagine. So don't write yourself off. Go to FetishCon and keep an open mind, and don't be surprised if someone comes up to you and says, I'd like to pay you to take some pictures of you, and the pay's not bad. Trust me on that. So, but even if you don't want to be a model and you've never considered it, it's a lot of fun. One of the neat things about FetishCon is that there's a great deal of encouragement towards taking pictures. Now, you may not know this, but that's not normal at most fetish events. At most fetish events, taking a picture will get you run right out the front door, okay? And just to tell you how militant they can be about it, I was at South Plains Leather Fest a few months back, and they had a public ceremony in the lobby of the hotel where this was held. It was held at the Radisson Park Inn Dallas Hotel, and there was media all around. There were people from the newspapers and stuff all around taking pictures of the ribbon cutting that was done for an exhibit showing some things from the the Leather Museum, a museum, I believe it's in Chicago, that is all about the leather movement. Okay, and so they had a small exhibit from the museum set up right there in the hotel lobby, and they were doing a ribbon cutting with a big red ribbon and great big scissors and everything, and there were people all around taking pictures, and I thought, well, I guess it's okay to take pictures. So I pulled out my phone to take a picture, and security was on me in a heartbeat. And they made it very clear to me that I should not be taking any pictures. And so don't get fooled like I was, because it's really easy to look around, see a lot of people taking pictures, and not realize that every one of those people have been cleared to take those pictures and have signed a non-disclosure agreement and an agreement never to post those pictures in public, and to be very careful about getting people's faces in the shots and that sort of thing, because there are people with a lot to lose in this lifestyle. So you can be lulled into a false sense of security. I certainly was, and that's a lesson that I will remember for a very long time. But FetishCon is different. FetishCon, everyone takes pictures, and everyone is encouraged to take pictures, because guess what? Most of the models there want their pictures taken. They are looking to get noticed, and so they dress up in some of the most outrageous outfits you can imagine, and some of them engage in some of the most outrageous behavior that you can imagine, all in the hopes that somebody will notice them and take their picture, and that and perhaps that will turn into a modeling career that pays their bills. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot to see. It's a lot of fun. You will meet some of the nicest, craziest people you have ever met, and there's a lot of great activities, social events. And remember, this, I don't know if it's there every year, and I don't know where it's going to be next year, but this time it was in the downtown Hilton Garden Hotel, downtown Tampa, one of the biggest, nicest hotels in town, and there are a whole lot of vanilla people in the hotel too. So even so, the fetish crowd took over the hotel bar, took over the hotel restaurants, and paraded around the hotel wearing their fetish gear, and not necessarily anything dirty, but leather and latex and feathers and whatnot. There was even a large pink bondage bunny at FetishCon this year. So it was a lot of fun, and I would really recommend that you go. And the tickets are not that expensive, folks. I think they're $100, around $100, maybe even less. Well worth the money. Well worth the money. I mean, you'll need a little extra money if you're going to go to the social events. They had a party at a local BDSM nightclub called The Castle, which I attended, which was a lot of fun. If you want to see some pictures of that, I think I posted them on my Facebook, and you can check those out there. And it was just a great time. So I'm gonna invite you now to come to FetishCon again. Come to FetishCon next year. I'm going to be there again, so you'll get to hang out with me. We get to go down to the bar and drink Mai Tais and watch the parade of kink go by all night long. It's a lot of fun. So make plans to go to FetishCon. I want to see you there. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna have a good time there next year. So put that on your calendar. I don't know what the dates are, but it's usually in August each year. So check out the website, fetishcon.com, and I'll see you there. Now, the following week, I went to an event in New York City, and I just got back last week, which is called BDSM WritersCon. It's put on by the world-famous Dr. Charlie Ferrer, who is touted as the world's foremost expert on BDSM, who also happens to be a kink-friendly therapist and a dominant herself. So she's a very interesting lady, and I got a chance to meet her in real life last week in New York City, because she is the organizer of BDSM WritersCon. And what this particular fetish event was about teaching BDSM writers about the real BDSM lifestyle, because a lot of them, and sad to say, a lot of the erotica writers out there have zero experience in the lifestyle. And, well, we were just talking about that with 50 Shades of Grey. Obviously, the person who wrote that has zero, or at least had zero experience in the lifestyle. And this is also true for a lot of the BDSM erotica writers out there. Well, Dr. Charlie Ferrer has decided to do what she can to fix that. She puts on this conference for BDSM writers to show them what it's really all about. And then she brings in people like me who have been living the lifestyle, who have some experience, who can provide information or workshops or give demonstrations. And it's a really interesting mix, because about half the people at this conference have zero experience with the lifestyle, have never been exposed to it in any way, shape, or form, only in their imaginations and in the erotica fiction that they read. And then the other half are the very experienced, somewhat jaded, been around the block a few times people like myself. And so it was really, really kind of interesting. I found it to be fascinating how well those two ends of the spectrum kind of mixed and mingled and had a good time at this event. And there were many demonstrations, including a hands-on demonstration of things like the violet wand and other toys and techniques. And there were also a couple parties given where these writers and us presenters got to go to a BDSM club in downtown Manhattan. Actually, two different BDSM clubs. I think one was called Paddles, which is I think it's a gay nightclub 5 nights a week, and the other 2 nights a week it is a BDSM nightclub. And then another nightclub called Cliffs, which I found fascinating because it's a BDSM club kind of hidden out in an office building disguised as an advertising agency. So there's no signs, no nothing. You could walk right past it. In fact, you could probably be in the office next door and not know that it was a BDSM club, because for the most part, all the office people go home at 5 o'clock, and the BDSM club doesn't even open up until about 10 o'clock at night. So those two groups of people never run into each other. So it was very interesting to go into a Manhattan office building and go up the elevator to an advertising agency, go through a nondescript door that says nothing but XYZ advertising agency, and suddenly there's a BDSM club inside. A big one, not a little tiny one, a pretty darn big one with a DJ booth, several rooms, lots of equipment, equipment for doing suspension play, equipment for spankings, St. Andrew's crosses, spanking benches. There was even a fucking machine on the dance floor. I kid you not. I thought I'd seen it all, but that's something I had never seen before. So even I can be boggled from time to time, and this was one of those times. So anyway, let's see, what else? I did give a presentation at BDSM WritersCon on the Warrior Princess Submissive, and for the very first time, I've given this presentation a couple of times, and it was kind of a variation of the very short description that I gave you at the beginning of the show. But for the very first time, I gave this presentation on the Warrior Princess Submissive to a group of people who were still kind of discovering themselves in the lifestyle. And I've got to tell you, the reactions to my workshop surprised me a lot. There were people crying in my audience. I'm not joking. It brought tears to some people's eyes because they were, for the very first time, being told who they were, what it's all about, why they're confused about some things, and why so many people have the incorrect idea of who they are and what brings them joy. And just because they're the CEO of a corporation and they supervise 300 people doesn't mean they can't be a submissive. And believe me, there are a lot of people out there who are confused themselves. They're going, how can I be a submissive? I'm the boss. I'm always the boss. I'm always in charge. Well, that doesn't matter, because that's what you do. That's not necessarily who you are. Who you are is what brings you joy, where you find that dynamic between you and the person you care about. You know, it's kind of like, I use the example all the time of gender identity. I mean, I know most of you have heard something about, you know, people who have gender identity issues. And the bottom line is, we're not defined by what's between our legs. We're defined by how we feel about it. You know, just because I have a penis doesn't necessarily mean that I have to define myself as a male. I might think I'm a female. I might feel like a female. I might love like a female. There might be nothing about me that is male except my genitals. And if that's the way I feel, if that's what brings me joy, then why should I have to be defined by what just happens to be between my legs? All right? You're defined by what brings you joy. You're defined by where you find your happy place. You're defined by how you feel about yourself and your partner, and where you find that energy, that joy in relating to a partner in a relationship, okay? So if you've never been in a DS relationship, if you've never had a DS partner, if you're a dom who's never had a sub in a relationship, if you're a sub who's never had a dominant in a relationship, and I mean in a relationship, I mean that it's kind of like sex, okay? You can have sex with someone. That doesn't necessarily mean you're in a relationship. You can also engage in BDSM activities with someone. That doesn't mean you're in a relationship, all right? You don't know how you're going to relate. You don't know how you're going to react. You don't know what will or won't bring you joy in that DS dynamic until you experience it in the context of a relationship. So there are a lot of people out there who are confused, and it's perfectly normal to be confused. It's kind of like trying to explain love to a preteen who's never been in love. It's like trying to explain a lasting marriage to a 7-year-old. I mean, they just have not felt it. They haven't experienced it, and they won't understand. There's nothing you can say that's going to make it clear to them until they experience it for themselves. Well, it's kind of the same way with a DS relationship dynamic. You are not going to understand it until you've been in one, and there's not a damn thing that I can say or write that's going to make it clear to you until you've experienced it. And so making decisions about how to label yourself, making decisions about who you are based on what you did Saturday night with some stranger, or what somebody tells you, or what some internet quiz told you, is a bunch of bullcrap. It really is, and I hate to be that blunt, but it just is. If you've not been in a DS relationship dynamic, no internet quiz, no book, no hoity-toity expert is going to be able to tell you a damn thing about it. You just need to experience it. But don't be in any kind of a hurry, all right? Don't make any rash decisions, and don't go out there and put yourself in a sub-frenzy or a dom frenzy looking for a partner so you can experience it. That's just as bad as a preteen going out looking for someone to fall in love with just so she can say she has done it. It's not a good thing either way. So let's do it smart. Let's take your time. Time is definitely your friend when it comes to DS relationships and BDSM activities. You can be hurt emotionally. You can be scarred for life physically by going too fast and trying to accomplish too much without taking your time and learning the ropes, no pun intended, of the lifestyles. And, there's a lot of overlap. There's a great deal of overlap between BDSM and DS. And if you're like me, you want a lot of overlap. You definitely want a full helping of DS with your BDSM and a full helping of BDSM with your DS relationship. That's a good thing for most of us. But just remember that not everyone thinks like me or you, possibly. There are people out there who just want their BDSM. They just want their kink, and they don't want any strings. They don't want a relationship. They don't want a commitment. On the other hand, there are people out there who just naturally feel that DS dynamic with their partner. They belong to the person that they love, heart, mind, body, and soul, and there might not be any kink involved whatsoever. So you can go either way. You can have just DS without the kink. You can have just kink without the DS. Or if you're like me, you want both and lots of it. So take your time. Learn slowly. Find that person or persons that brings you joy, the person who brings you joy. And hopefully, if you're kinky, they bring you a little bit of kink too, so that you're not just limited to what you do. You can also work on who you are and learn a little bit about yourself in the process. I think that's a healthy thing, and that's a big part of healthy BDSM relationships. And I think that's kind of what we've been talking about for most of the show tonight, is healthy BDSM relationships. They're out there, people. They are. You don't write off the entire lifestyle because you've hooked up with a couple of jerks. Just like you don't write off mathematics just because you don't get algebra. All right? Mathematics is going to be there whether you get it or not. This lifestyle isn't going anywhere, and it's not inherently good or bad. It's what you make of it. But don't condemn an entire lifestyle because you have hooked up with a couple of jerks. Because guess what? Like my dad used to tell me, 90% of everything is crap, and that includes people. So 90% of the people you meet in this life, in this lifestyle, on that website, they're going to be jerks. Focus on the 10% who are worth your time, energy, and love. That's how you find happiness in this lifestyle. So, we're at the end of the show, and I think it's been a pretty good show considering I've just been rambling, so here we go.
Jolly good show.
Yeah, jolly good show. So I'm going to thank you for listening in this week. I hope you'll be back next week for more DS Radio with Mike Makai. Take care, and we'll see you next week.